everyone. So we are going to start working on our oil pastel techniques worksheets that you have. We've just had a look at David Hockney's landscapes and we understand that he does oil pastels and he achieves his painting using oil pastels mainly. So what we need to do is we need to figure out how he created them using oil pastels and the different techniques we may use to be able to achieve this. So on your worksheets you have light pressure blending, blending of two colours, adding white to make it a tint and adding black to make it a shade. You all should have a pack of oil pastels on your table. So what I would like you to do is just have a look at what I'm doing, take this in, and then I'm going to send you away to do the first boxes on your worksheet in about 5 minutes. Okay, if you have any questions, pop your hand up and I can answer them as we go along. So our light pressure blending, I've chose to do it with blue and green. So I'm going to do that again with blue and green. And light pressure blending is to do with how lightly you press with your oil pastel. Okay, so I'm going to take a nice light blue there and a dark green here. So I'm going to hold my oil pastel about halfway up here, and you do this with pencils as well, as when you're shading you don't hold it to the very tip like this because it's very hard to get a light pressure that way. If you hold it up in the middle it's a lot easier, and I would use the side of the oil pastel instead of like the top bit here because this bit's flat, so I'd never shade like this, I would shade kind of sideways. Okay, so I'm going to do that very lightly like so. You don't have to fill up the whole entire box, otherwise it will take you forever. So I just want you to lightly do one colour across the box like so. Okay, so not pressing too hard, doing it very lightly using the corner of your oil pastel. Then I'd like you to get your next colour, which I've chosen green, and then I want you to go over using the same amount of pressure, holding your oil pastel the same amount up, and you are just going to go over like so. And you can see that these colours start to blend together quite nicely because you're using the same sort of pressure. So that is your first box there called light pressure blending. Okay, now we are going to go on to blending two colours. I've chosen yellow and orange and blue or green. So when you go back to your own tables, you can choose either. Okay, so I'm going to do the yellow and orange and then I'm going to do the blue and green so you can see both of them if you choose to do whatever colour you'd like. So I'm going to get my yellow and my orange. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go down with my yellow quite lightly, because you want to start off lightly, because if you start pressing really hard, oil pastel isn't easy to rub out, so it's quite hard to take that colour away. So I'm going to do my yellow colour about halfway down quite lightly like so. Then I'm going to get my orange. I'm going to put it slightly over, about halfway over the yellow, and then it goes down to its own colour here. So you should have it going from yellow, kind of a yellow orange, down to orange. And now what we can start doing is layering that colours up. So I can now press a little bit harder to go down and put it slightly over the orange, and then get my orange and go slightly over the yellow. And as you can see, as the more layers I put on, the more it is blending the colours together. But this wouldn't have happened if I pressed really hard to start with. Okay, so that's my yellow and orange. You can see it goes yellow, it goes a light orange here, and then it goes a really dark orange there. I'm now going to do this again with my blue and my green. So I'm going to get a darker blue because that's the one I've used before to show you. So I'm going to go press very lightly with my blue, and I'm going to go about halfway down the box. Then I'm going to get the green and I'm going to go halfway over my blue and then continue down the rest of the box. Okay, so it should look something like this. Then I can keep layering these colours, so I can go again with my blue, adding another layer, going over the green, and then getting my green, pressing a little bit harder, and keep going over. And the more I keep adding layers, the more opaque it's going to create, and it's going to become. and then it will look something like that. So that's what you should have in your second box where you blend two colours together, okay? You're adding a white tint. What I would like you to do is get a like darkish colour, because if you get a lighter colour you won't really be able to see the difference too well. So I'm going to pick the green because that's what I did before. I'm going to make sure I have green and I'm going to make sure I have white. So I'm going to go down very, very lightly with my green. And you can see where I'm holding the oil pastel, again quite high up. And I'm using the side of the oil pastel. There we go, and I'm creating quite a light blend, kind of like we did with the light pressure. That's what I'm doing again. Then I can go over with my white, and I can press a little bit harder this time because we need the two colours to blend together. And you can see it's starting to blend the two colours together as I go down, so it's starting to make a lighter green. There we go. And that is how I would make a tint in oil pastel. Then I'm going to go all the way down to my adding black to make a shade here. So I'm going to get my black first, and then I'm going to get my blue here. I'm going to add black first, and this time it's because it's easier. If I add black and I add too much black, it's easier to blend the colour out with my other colour. However, if I do black over the top, it's going to be very, very hard to get the black away. As it's such a strong colour, it's going to be very, very hard to rub out. So I'm going to go with my blue, very, very lightly again, across most of the box. And you can see on most of this, I'm not filling up the whole entire box. Okay, then I'm going to go over with my black. Like so, okay, and you may have noticed I've just done that wrong, so we're going to do it again. So I said we had to add the black first and not add the blue, so now we're going to do it again. So I said to add the black first, I've got that the wrong way around. So there we go, we're going to add the black. I'm just going to do it here so that you can see, but if you make a mistake, don't worry, just do it next to the box. We all make mistakes, it's fine. So I'm going to now add the blue on top, and you may notice that the two colours start to blend together a lot better than what I just did there, because it doesn't really blend well. So I'm going to press a bit harder with my blue. And you can see that it starts to blend together quite nicely, and that is how you make a shade using oil pastels. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like to go back to your tables. On your worksheet, the first 4 boxes that will be labelled exactly the same on your worksheet. You have 5 minutes to do that, and then we're going to gather back around the table to do our texture ones for our oil pastel, okay? If you have any problems, pop your hand up and I will come have a look.